This is Modern Photo Solutions, helping you find modern solutions for life's photographic journey. Taking you from photo overwhelm to photo fabulous in just a few taps. Your story matters. It's time to start telling it. Hey everyone, welcome to Modern Photo Solutions. I'm Steph Clay, and it is so good to be back recording. I've been off for a little bit because I've been spending a lot of time with my family. My dad retired at the beginning of January, and the day after his retirement, my parents and I all hopped on a flight back to Arizona, and they spent some time with me here in Arizona with my family, and it's been so fun to have them around. And I just put them back on a plane to Utah this morning. Despite my begging them to stay, they wouldn't hear of it. They thought going back to freezing Utah would be better. I don't understand it. But I'm able to get back to work and back to a full-time schedule and back to recording. I delayed this recording just a little bit, knowing that I only had a couple days left to spend with them. And so I took advantage of that time. So this recording is just a little bit late. I wanted to talk about one thing. If you remember when Rana was on this show a little while ago, she talked about recording family members tell their stories or tell stories from their life. And while my parents were here, they shared a lot of stories with us. And I was able to actually sneakily record them sharing some of these stories. And it was so fun. We went to visit some of my cousins, and my cousins started asking my parents all kinds of questions about how they met and their early years being married and their dating. And I grabbed my phone. It was not sly. I grabbed my phone. It was a production. I ran across the room, grabbed my phone, and got into the app, and they knew exactly what I was doing. And my dad was super embarrassed. But I just set it down next to him. I happened to be sitting next to him on the couch, so I just sat it down and let it roll. And because my cousin was there, they continued to tell the story. I think had my cousin not been there and not been the one asking, my dad would have gotten frustrated with me and stopped sharing the story because I was recording it. So I kind of feel like I owe my cousin. I posted on Instagram, like I owe him a case of Diet Mountain Dew or something, because our love for Diet Mountain Dew runs deep in our family, and it's almost like I set it up. It was so perfect. You would think that I did. In fact, my dad asked me if I did set it up, and I didn't. It was so great that my cousin was asking these questions. And so when I posted about this on Instagram, people asked me what app I used, and I just used the default voice recording app that comes on an iPhone. And it's called Voice Memos, and it has a white background with like the audio recording track, zigzag black lines going through it. And I will be uploading that to Dropbox, and then I will probably also be getting it transcribed. But let me tell you, before I jump into all of that, I was able to get the best version of this story of how they met and how they decided to get married that I've ever heard. There were details that they included that I very, very vaguely remember bits of hearing it when I was younger. I would say probably 6, maybe even younger than that. But I really didn't understand when I was that little how important these details were and how significant they were, because I hadn't lived enough of my life to understand them. And so it was really fun to hear that story and now to have it recorded. And so I will probably be getting it transcribed. What I will do is use my editing software to edit that track down so that it's just the story. And then I will get it transcribed, and so that we can add this. This is actually the story of how my mom and dad met, is one of my mom's questions from Storyworth. And if you remember me talking about that in December on the podcast that Katie Nelson was on with me, it was a gift that I was going to give my mom for her birthday. And it is an app and a website where you can have questions emailed to people. They can reply to the questions. And that part of the service is free. You can have it printed up in a book for an additional fee, which is what we're doing for my mom. And she hasn't replied to any of those questions yet. Her birthday is in December, right before Christmas. And so that's when we had the emails start sending, we started having the emails sent to her in December. And then right after the holidays was when my dad retired. I almost said graduated. Same thing, right? When my dad retired, and then they came right to Arizona. And so really she hasn't had time to answer any of those questions. So this question of how they met is one of her Storyworth questions. And so I will get that transcribed and then add that for her. Storyworth does offer transcription services, but the cost works out to be $1.45 to $2 per minute. And for all of my business transcription on my website and for these podcasts, the transcriptions for the podcasts, I use a site that's called rev.com, and it works out to be $1 per minute. And so I will probably edit down that audio, like I said, so that it's just the main part of the story and what I want to have be included in the transcription, and then I will pay to have it transcribed. Rev does a really good job. I've been happy with all of the transcriptions that I've had done there. There have just been a couple that I've had problems with, but they do great. They have great customer service. So that's how I will work that. As far as getting that off of my phone, I will upload it to Dropbox, and then I will have that saved on my phone, on my computer, and in Dropbox as well. So that's 3 different places. If you needed to save space on your phone, you certainly could delete it from your phone and then have it on your computer and in Dropbox. Someone asked if Google Photos will support audio files, and it does not because it's not an image, but Google Drive would, and you absolutely could upload it to Google Drive. And you could also upload it to Amazon Drive or to iCloud Drive as well. There are lots of different options so that you have it saved in several different places and backed up. So this morning, as my mom was telling me a story about, really, there were so many stories that my parents told me while they were here. And while she was telling me a story, I said to her, Mom, you need to include this in your Storyworth. And she said, I know, I will start doing that when I get home because I want to do it. And so I told her that I would pause the emails for her, and she was very relieved. And this is something that I love that Storyworth does. I can go in and manually delay them so that she's only getting them once a month instead of once a week. And I can go in when we get close to that month date and extend it out again if I need to give her a little bit of time to get caught up, and so that it's not feeling like she's super behind and it's overwhelming for her. And I'm looking forward to seeing and hearing the stories that come out of this. I wish I would have thought to record more of the stories as I was hearing them, but I didn't always. And then my mom started telling my dad, she's recording you, when I really wasn't. My dad would get mad. So I have to be careful. It really was perfect that my cousin asked those questions. And I think I'm going to have to put him up to that more often when they come down to visit. And maybe I will return the favor when his parents come in a few weeks. Recently, I had someone ask me how I have enough photos to do a page every day because they struggle to get enough photos to fill even one page for an entire week. And so I wanted to share a little bit of what I found about this because I figured that this is probably something that a lot of people might struggle with. So I found that the more often I am creating pages, the more aware I am of taking photos to document my story and my life. Even with my daily pages, if I'm saving them and to batch them a week at a time or 2 weeks at a time, I find myself slipping on the photo taking area and I don't take as many photos. But if I am creating my pages several pages during a week, then I am more aware and more likely to remember to take photos on a daily basis. Now, with things as busy as they have been the past few weeks, having my parents here, it's thrown me off of taking photos, and that's a bummer. I did get a lot more photos with them, which I'm so happy about. But what I did forget to do, which I'm sad about, is I forgot to take photos all of the times that we were visiting with cousins. There were several times that we got together with different cousins of mine that live here in the area, and I forgot to take photos each time. So when I forget to take photos, here are some of the things. Oh, let me also mention that one of the reasons that I think that I was doing a worse job taking photos while my parents was here is because I was waiting to batch process them and batch create the pages a week at a time. Because I was up and going constantly and falling into bed at night. And so I wasn't spending my time at the end of the day. And I didn't have as much waiting time because my parents were riding around with me in the car. And so my waiting time was spent visiting with my parents, which is exactly how it should be. And I wouldn't have it any other way. And so I would rather have a few missing photos with my cousins, if that's the trade-off, which I think for me, for the way I work and the way my brain works, that is the trade-off. So when I forget to take photos, here are some of the things that I do to help me visually document that memory. We can always tell it in the story part where we add our journaling, with the words. We can always talk about it, but I like to have photos as well. So I include a photo of something that represents that event or that thing as I go back to create that page, and I know that I want to add something. For instance, I'll want to add something that represents getting together with my cousins. And so I will include a photo of ice cream because when I had some of my cousins over to visit with my parents, they asked if they could come say goodbye to my parents. And so we served ice cream, and I made one of my grandma's, my mom actually, not me, I was going to, and then she said she would do it. I was happy to let her. My grandma's recipe for praline sauce. And so we had ice cream and then some sauces. And so I will take a photo of the ice cream that we had, and I still actually have some sauce. And so what I'll do later today is create a bowl and stick some ice cream and sauce in there and put that in there to represent that that's what we did. It's not as good as the people photos in my opinions, but it's not a bad secondary, replacement just because I didn't get the best one with the actual people that were there. I will also take a screenshot of something that represents the day or the event or the thing that we did that I want to remember. And so I have done some examples of that. I have done this with maps of a drive from one point to another. If I forget to take photos of a road trip while we're driving, once in a while that has happened, then I'll map it from point A to point B and take a screenshot of that and include that. An email receipt, I do that sometimes with my Walmart grocery order if I forgot to take photos of documenting that. I do Walmart grocery pickup. I love it. It's the best thing since sliced bread. I started online grocery shopping, as a side note, in 1999. That was the very first time that I did online grocery shopping in Seattle. Amazon started it actually, and there were a couple of competitors in the area, and then Amazon bought them out. But I think it's really great to have this documented. I wish I had some photos of those services back then, bringing in my groceries because of the way they did it. They brought it in, they unloaded everything, and they would put it away for you. It was amazing. So I try to document my Walmart grocery pickup just because it's a change from the norm, and it's probably a lot of the way that things are going, the times are going. And down the road, someday my kids might be interested in seeing that. I might be interested in seeing that because I would love to see my grocery deliveries from 1999. Hello, it's mind-blowing how things change and circle back and improve. So if I forget to take a photo of something to represent that, I'll screenshot my email receipt that I get from them and include that. Text messages. I can include the text message string from my cousins where we were planning getting together. And I also like to include a screenshot of music that I listen to. I did this the other day. I usually sit with my daughter at school for quite a while in the morning while we're waiting to drop her off, and I'll let her select the music that we listen to. So I screenshot the music that we were listening to that morning, and I included that. An audiobook that I'm listening to. Right now I'm trying to finish up the Harry Potter series. I don't think it's going to happen before my daughter comes home April 4th. But I'm in book 5, and I'm listening to that a lot, and I like including that because it's really fun to look back on and see later on. Even a year ago, it's fun for me to look back and see what I was listening to a year ago, an audiobook or the music. I include a screenshot of the location. Oh, I will include a screenshot of the location where I met my cousins for lunch with my parents and the other cousins where we met for dessert. So I can just, in my Google Maps app, search that location and then take a screenshot of that and include that on the page. I also like to include movie posters when we go to the movie. Sometimes I'll include my Fandango tickets with our seat numbers and all of that information. If I don't do that though, sometimes I'll include just the movie poster because I think that's really fun. And I do think that it'll be fun for me and for my kids to look back on down the road. I search Google Images often for different events, different things that I want to include, people that I might want to include, famous people that have passed away. I also really like to include current screenshots of news and current events. That's always really fun, especially with all of the news that's going on with the elections and that kind of stuff. I really like to include those. I don't generally share those because I don't want to offend anybody with my political views. But the weather, I love to include screenshots of the weather. As we're new to Arizona, it's been really fun for us to look back a year ago and see what the weather was like a year ago. It's so different than it is this year. And I also like to include pictures of receipts, photos of receipts from the Bahamas, when we went to the Bahamas, and when we go to Disney and groceries and any of that kind of stuff. Those are details that I like to include and those are things that I can take pictures of after the fact as well. I'm a receipt saver, but I can take photos of those and include those. And it's been really fun to be able to go back and look at prices of things throughout the years and how much money we spent on certain vacations. It also helps us budget when we're getting ready to plan another vacation. Podcasts that I'm listening to, I already mentioned music and audiobooks. Podcast is another one that I like to include. Screenshots of a flight boarding pass if I'm traveling, schedules and checklists. When I have a lot of things going on a lot of things on my Google Calendar, I'll take a screenshot of the daily view and include that so that it's just documented and I know I can see later on down the road what's going on. I don't always have tons of stuff going on. I've tried to, over the past few years, simplify my life a little bit and my schedule because of various things, but I realized that I had become kind of a busy addict, and I don't want to be that way anymore. I like having downtime and quiet time. It's really important to me, so I try hard not to overschedule. But sometimes there are things that absolutely have to be taken care of, and it's hard to prevent having busy times. So I do include those calendars a little bit as well, screenshots of the calendars. So it's like anything, the more you practice it, the better you get at it and the more ideas you get. But I know that when I'm asking myself each day how I will tell the story of that day, I am better at remembering to take photos. When I know I will be telling the story of that day, it helps me to live more fully, be more aware of how I'm living it, and how I will tell that story. I would love to hear things that you like to include in your story and in your pages. If there are additional ideas that you have, please come share them in the comments of the show just by going to modernphotosolutions.com/podcast. We have comments there, and I would love to hear your ideas and the things that you're doing too, because I don't have all the answers, and I'm sure that some of you have some really fun ideas as well. There are other things that I do too, to include stories from the day. from each day, but these are things that you can do after the fact if you forgot to take photos. The one thing that has helped me feel on top of all of my photos is Google Photos. And if you haven't yet gone through the free Photo Fabulous First Step class at Modern Photo Solutions, you are missing out. Just head over to modernphotosolutions.com and click on the large yellow button to sign up for that class. There is currently a wait list for the Heart of Photo Fabulous class. People that have completed the free Photo First Step class will have priority access on the next open registration for that class. I am hoping to release the Android version of the Heart of Photo Fabulous and open up the registration again for the iPhone version, hopefully by early March. I'm hoping it'll actually be sooner, but for sure by early March. Thank you so much for being here and for sharing part of your day with me. I truly do appreciate you letting me be on this journey to Photo Fabulous with you. I will see you next time on Modern Photo Solutions.